would be nice to have a few more, but I think the weather is conspiring against us a little bit. Maybe they'll come in if they were running late. If you got your book, hopefully you did, and there's some things I wanted to point out to you. The first page has our board members, and our officers. So I am Mary Jo, better known as Bunny Debling, president. The vice president, Carolyn, you want to raise your hand back here, Carolyn Lamley. She is in charge of our refreshments, and she would like to have 2 people who would volunteer to bring something in November. So if you're willing to bring something in November. Penny said she volunteered, so we just need 1. So, and also Penny, I think most of you know, was collecting the dues today. All right, she's saying that she's providing the wine and the drinks and then little sandwiches. And if you would like to bring something to go with that, we can serve that. So as you remember, we are streaming this program. And so in order for the people at home to hear, we have to be talking through the microphone. So when I finish, then I will hand it to Mary Ann, who would like to give a little tribute to Joanne Cavalli. On page 5, we've had 4 memorial donations for our 2024-25. Only 2 are listed here because the other 2 happened when we were printing. Barbara is in here and Joanne. And Lise Proto, we ended up giving her memorial donation to WGUC. And Shirley Snizzer, her obituary said she would like for it to go to St. Paul United Methodist, so that's where we sent hers. On the scholarship list, which is on page 11, we added $1,500 to the Butler Philharmonic Orchestra Youth Outreach. Their group is Jennifer's group that played for us in May, and so we found out they do have a youth outreach, so that's where we gave our endowment donation. Look on page 9, in the middle of the page, in memoriam. We lost 6 members this year, so we need to try to beat the bushes and see if we can get some new members in here. But Bibbs Becker and Ingrid Grupp have not attended in some time, but they were still members, and their obituaries were in the papers, the only way I knew they had passed. So we will have our program in just a minute, but Marianne, would you want to come up and say something about Joanne now? All right.
It's been some time since you've seen Joanne Cavalli in person. She was living at Evergreen Retirement Center, and she had always been so nice to Jenny, my daughter. Would you like me to get out of your way? Oh, okay. And I got better acquainted with her because of that. The first time I met her, I really didn't like her. She was teaching flute to one of my piano students who was taking her flute to one of the contests that they have for high school students. And so I was supposed to go over there and play so Joanne could hear how it was going to sound together. Well, that was back when Robert was still alive and they were in the old house. Her piano was a really tall upright. It was terrible. And I said, I was having trouble with the keys. They just didn't all go down like it should, very out of tune. And I said something, and she said, well, this came over with the Johnstown flood. And I said, sure sounds like it. And I should never have said that. It just came out. And then the next thing I knew, this big dog was on my foot, so I couldn't use the pedal, and she wouldn't get it off. That was my first recollection of Joanne Cavalli. But as time went on, we became very good friends. Jenny got to play in some of her groups, and we got to go to the parties, and I would play for her a lot of times too for things. And then she got to the point, I used to play down at Covenant First Presbyterian downtown in Cincinnati, and they would have a Wednesday service at noon. And so she started asking me to come over for lunch after that. And she was a very good cook. And that was good. And then as she got to feeling worse, we would go somewhere. I would drive us someplace. And then, of course, eventually she got to Evergreen. Her love for her cats was what kept her alive as long as she was. She always kept saying to me, well, I have to stay alive to take care of my cats. She had 2 cats. Both of them were wild cats, but she coaxed them in and tamed them. She just had a special knack with animals. She was very generous. She was very generous to Jenny. She was very generous to me. The memorial service that we had was at Spring Grove Cemetery. It was in their small chapel. There was no keyboard instrument there, so I wasn't able to play anything. But Jenny played her flute, and which I thought was very appropriate. And they had a closed casket, but I so much wanted to see her one more time. I didn't think he would do this, and I didn't ask for it, but the director there opened the top part of the casket so I could see her again. I insisted that she be buried in her SAI clothes because she had done so much for SAI, and she was buried in that. And then when we went over to the cemetery where she was to be interred with Robert, somehow it just seemed so appropriate that she was going to be right beside Robert again. But she did so much for SAI, both the collegiate chapter and the adult chapter too. And she could be a little stinker, but that's what kept her alive, I think, too. She was a lot of fun. And I miss her very much.
Before we start the program, I did want to introduce you to the rest of the officers in case you aren't familiar with who they are. You met the vice president, and Penny's the treasurer. Martha, raise your hand. Martha's the secretary. The board members are Heather Arden, who's going to be performing for us today. Heather, raise your hand. All right. Sue Warchek, who's new on the board. Laurel Hinkle. And Shar Jackson. Okay, so that is your board. So if you want to talk to anybody about anything that's happening, you can talk to them or me. So without further ado, I think we're going to go ahead and start the program. As you recall, if you want to say something, you have to say it into this microphone. I'm going to put it in a stand when we're ready to hear the music. Are you going to say anything first, ladies, or are you just going to start playing? Just playing? Okay, Connie, are you first? How's the program arranged? Heather's first, okay. Heather, did you want to say anything?
I don't think I have to say much. Mostly Schubert and one new piece by Enrique Granado, so a wonderful Spanish composer who sounds like Schubert. Okay.
You have your type, don't you? I'm just going to put this here, and then we can always sit it out if somebody needs to talk.
too much? Okay. So while he's getting set up, I'll just say this is my husband, Rick. He's a percussionist. So he'll actually be performing on our program in April, most likely on the marimba. So he'll be bringing a marimba in for that. But we thought we'd just do something a little different today. We play together fairly frequently. We're getting to do that a little bit more frequently now. But in addition to flute and marimba and things like that, we have a lot of music for flute and various hand drums. And being a percussionist, he has quite a lot of drums and things all over the house. And he comes with a lot more stuff than a flute. So this particular time, it is shakers and this is a djembe, right? No, it's a doumbek. I don't know.
How many years now? You still don't know? No, this is a doumbek. You may know their name's called darbuka. It's a goblet-shaped drum. We see them in pretty much all cultures around the world. This one is more Middle Eastern based. It is a solid cast aluminum drum. So get some really nice high pingy notes and all sorts of fun stuff out of it.
Okay. So this piece is by Herman Beeftink, who probably not a lot of people know. He's, I think, a Norwegian-American composer. He immigrated to the U.S., I believe, in the 70s. He lives in Los Angeles. He composes a lot of scores for TV and film. He's done a lot of scores for things on the History Channel and things like that. And then lately, he's taken a liking to the flute and has been composing a whole lot of stuff for flute and also for piano. So this is his Fantasia Arabesque for solo flute and percussion.
Thank you all. What a great program we had today. Thank you for coming out. Let's give all the performers another hand. And for those of you who don't know, our flute player is the daughter of our piano player, so they've had quite a history together. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, November 4th, 1 o'clock here. And I know we have a French horn playing, and we have some singing. We have a couple of guests coming, so should always be a nice, entertaining afternoon. So please join us again for refreshments right now, and then come again on November 4th. And thank you all for coming. And don't forget to vote before you come, or after you've been here.